So I participated, I did like things with the waitresses, Suzanne Lacey. Well, Suzanne Lacey's here, but now. But Suzanne Lacey organized major, big, huge structural performance events. And I was in those, like that in Morning and Rage piece. I was one of those tall women. I can always see myself in all these images that get published all over the place. Of course, you don't know who I am, but I knew I was there. And that was fun. I didn't really have to like be, I just had to just sort of help and appear and support. And then I worked with feminist art workers a little bit. I helped founded the Sisters of Survival, which we were dealing with anti-nuclear issues, and we did a performance tour in Europe and did that for a while. So that's the kind of thing I did. It was more help. It was more. I felt more like not that I was like leading the charge, but that I was supporting the women who had these great ideas and needed participants. It lasted for 2 years at that site, and then Chenard sold the building, and the organization had to move, so it moved over to near Chinatown in a really awful location, beautiful building, but an awful location. And in that move, most of the tenants had couldn't really, it wasn't good for street traffic, it wasn't good for a bookstore. People, a lot of women hated to come there because they felt like it wasn't a safe part of town. So the only thing that was really strongly surviving was the Feminist Studio Workshop. And so the Feminist Studio Workshop took over responsibility for the whole of the building and made galleries and did all the programming and everything for the Women's Building from then on. So it lasted for about almost 20 years, and several more years in that location. Well, lots of people went off to work in as faculty in different institutions. Susan King, who I knew at the Women's Building, is like a really well-known artist bookmaker, and she teaches and has her own press. Cindy Marsh, who I worked with, is now on faculty at a state school in Tennessee. Sheila, of course, is at Yale. Arlene died. Sherry, my partner, she's teaching in a high school, teaches video art. Nancy Angelo, who is my good friend, left, a lot of them left the arts actually, and she became an organizational consultant. She got her PhD in organizational psychology, and she's a brilliant facilitator of groups and things. So I think that the people who are involved in the arts don't necessarily, people change jobs a lot. People change their kind of interests and whatever. I think the kind of art we were doing at that time was much more about collaboration and working together and kind of activism and things like that. And so it wouldn't be at all atypical for people to move more into the areas of, that kind of thing, or teaching or whatever. So that's sort of what I see. Well, I'm still like on the board of the Women's Building. The Women's Building exists as an entity without a space. It's just because there was a little bit of money left to spend, and that was one of my things that I was really pushing for, because we sort of started that maybe 10 years ago, and I figured we really needed a way to kind of document the whole time period and the whole of the Women's Building, and that was what came out of it. And Terry and Sandra Hale agreed to edit it and get people to write it. So they did that, and I was supportive of it. Now what we're trying to do is figure out a way to maybe publish that as a real book in conjunction with our show in 2011. The feminism issue is just something that is kind of it's kind of established as kind of, so many things have been worked out, I guess. It's not completely worked out, though, from my perspective. It's not over, but the young people seem to think it's over, and so it's kind of interesting because you ask them, well, what about these things, or what do you think feminism is? And most young people just don't have a clue. They say, oh, bra burners or something like that, and it's not really, it's not all there is. But I'll tell you, the one thing that really still bugs me, no end, is the fact that young women are wearing these high heels. It's like, why? Can't we finally, I mean, I understand the fun and the makeup and all that. It doesn't really bother me, but high heels are so crippling. Why? Why do women insist on doing that? And not just young women, but other women too. I have a friend here who's an art historian who, she dresses up all the time, and I talked to her about it. Why are you still wearing high heels? It's like it's somehow it's still ingrained in the culture that it looks good or it looks right for women to be wearing this, and there's absolutely no reason. So, and it's, I mean, well, oh, don't get me started. But anyway, that's the one thing, just like a stupid little issue, I know, but it just bothers me that we can't get past some of those things, which, I don't know. And I always tell, like the art historian I was talking about, she dresses up in makeup, and I said, you're in drag. As far as I'm concerned, you are in drag. That is drag. And whether a man wears it or a woman wears it, I like drag. I like to see men in drag. I think it looks really interesting and cool. But they're choosing it. Whereas some women are not necessarily choosing it, and they're not conscious of the fact that they're choosing it. And that, I think, is, one issue that until we get sort of where we can kind of see what our choices are and really feel that there are options, I don't think we can say that feminism has, done what it needs to do yet. I don't think there's one feminist art movement. I mean, there wasn't even really then, but it felt like that there was kind of one. Now there's way more. And I think that the feminist agenda in art is really diffused so much that there just isn't that sense of movement that we had in the 70s. It all went away. Well, one of the things I will say is that I was pretty old. I was 45 when the children were born. My partner, Sherry, was 40. So, I had already lived and done everything that I wanted to do. And, I'd wanted children for, quite a few years before that. But, the timing wasn't right. As I said, I went back to library school, and so I didn't want to have kids while I was being in school or whatever. And I just wanted to be a parent. I just wanted to have a child, a child. And so, I waited until there was a time that it seemed to work out, that I realized my job would support it. We could hire childcare or whatever it was. We were sufficiently established and, with jobs and so forth. So I never thought I would stay home or anything. That wasn't really of interest. And I actually enjoyed the children much more as they've gotten older, because they're just so much more interesting as people. I mean, babies, I like the little babies, but, when we found out we had two, she was going to have twins, that was a little kind of disconcerting there for a couple of weeks. But, I think it's really great because they've had each other. They're each other's best friend, and I just think that's just so great that they have that. So they always knew we were working parents. We've covered for each other if we've had to have, travel or stay late for work or whatever. It hasn't really been an issue.